Hey, I'm Jared Alper. I'm Good Party's political director, and I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee today with Lisa Williams.
Hi, I'm Lisa Williams. I'm here with Good Party, and I'm running for District 23 for the Nashville Metro Council.
So Lisa, the first question I have to ask is it's 13 days until the August 3rd general election. How's everything going?
So far, it's been great. Nashville is such an amazing city, and my district in particular has been a really fantastic place to be campaigning.
And how have you been spending the days out on the campaign trail?
I've been doing quite a bit of door-to-door, phoning, talking to people. I've been asking a lot of friends to make some phone calls, email, talk to their people, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm so curious too, just to get some insight on you on why exactly you kind of jumped into this campaign to begin with. What inspired you to run for office?
Well, I had a friend ask me to consider running. And
it's a good reason.
After considering what that would take and what the ramp up would be, I realized that it would be something I could do. It's something I would enjoy doing. I reached out to my current council member, who I am running against, and they took a meeting with me. And during that meeting, they offered me the opportunity to shadow them through the campaign and to teach me how to read a financial page. And it felt incredibly condescending. And so they didn't really ask me anything about my background. They didn't really give me any indication that they would do anything more than use my time, effort, and ability to get them back into office. And so I took that as a cue that I needed to come out on my own and hit the campaign trail and make the move to run for office.
So Lisa, if not for you, it's highly likely, if not a certainty, that your race would have been one of the, unfortunately, too many races across the city where an incumbent member of office was reelected with no opposition at all. So why was it so important to you that voters in your community had an opportunity to vote for an alternative this year?
Well, I believe that democracy dies in a vacuum. If we don't have choices, then why vote? Too many people don't realize that if somebody doesn't run against an incumbent, then we don't have people voting. We lose those opportunities. We lose those differences of the way that our city can run. Right now in Nashville, we have 11 people who are running unopposed for 40 seats. 35 are district seats, 5 are metro general positions. And of those 11, some of them are brand new. They are not incumbents. And so this is something that has been happening over many years in our city, and I didn't feel that that was the right way for our city to continue. And so I put myself forward as a candidate, and I'm here today talking to you.
Yeah, and I think that's a trend that is not necessarily unique to Nashville. In Tennessee in particular, it's one of the states where 47%, almost a majority of elected offices go unopposed. Mm-hmm. And that disproportionately affects young people who are stepping into sort of their political state of consciousness for the first time. So I'm curious if you can speak to the conversations you might have had with people who are under the age of 35 in that first time voting 18-year-old mm-hmm. registered range to the sort of end of the millennial range who might be tuning into this election late in the game and weren't sure what their options were.
So for anyone who's in that 35 and younger range, or maybe someone who has just registered to vote for the first time, or maybe you've missed the deadline and you're not going to get to vote in this election, but you will get to vote in the next election that's coming up, talk to your friends, grab your neighbors, talk to the grown-ups in your life, the people who are a little bit ahead of you. It's so important to use that opportunity. It's your civic duty, it's your civic right, it's your civic honor to be able to participate in our government, and this is how you do it. Take the time to read the interviews that people have done. Every single person who's running for office in Nashville has filled out survey upon survey upon survey. They're available online. I know that I have a webpage on the Good Party, the Good Party's website that you can go and look at. Nashville Banner is a local newspaper that has interviewed every single candidate, so you can go and see all of our responses there and our financials, which is very important to review. So definitely get out there, do the research. If you're 18 or 25 and you're just coming out of your education, you know how to do research. You all have done the papers and the reports, and you know how to dig in and find that information. Take the time to do it. Maybe share it with somebody who is working a crazy hours job and doesn't have time to look it up so that they have that information as well. And if you have the time, even if you have 30 extra minutes, Good Party has some call banks that you can help out with. And if you find somebody that really resonates with you, volunteer to give your time. that's something that I did when I was younger. I actually helped with something called Rock the Vote. Back in the 90s, I went and helped to sign people up to do voter registration. And so I think it's a very important thing for people to be involved when you can, as you can. I think it's important to vote. If you, in the future, want to be someone who is participating as a candidate or as a representative, your voting record's going to be something of importance. People will look at that. People will ask you what you voted in different races, different amendments here in Tennessee. That's part of your story that you're going to be able to tell if you start voting now. One of the things I want to encourage people to do is vote now. Keep learning, keep digging in. Every cycle you're going to see new people come up. Maybe you'll be old enough in a couple of years, or maybe you're old enough now to run where you are. Every state has different age requirements. Federal government has different age requirements. Don't be afraid to learn enough to change your point of view or the way that you vote. So the way you vote now as an 18-year-old, because what you're concerned about, may be different than the way you vote when you're 45 and you've got 2 kids and you're paying a mortgage. And that's okay, because that is one of the wonderful things about our country, is that you can learn and grow and shift perhaps your perspective, and we should be able to do that. And that's one of the really great things about being able to be involved in our government, is that you can work to change things along the path of your lifetime.
Yeah, I think that's a feature of a healthy democracy. Mm-hmm. I think that if you are someone who is not evolving in their views as you get older, as you have more life experience, something might be wrong in the sense, and political parties discourage that, right?
Right.
And I'm curious, as you have been a candidate in particular, how have any of your views been shaped or potentially even evolved as you've gone out into your community as a political figure and presented your ideas to improve your community and heard feedback and insight back from the people you're hoping to represent on council?
So one of the key things that Nashville has as a struggle right now is transportation. And as I've been talking more and more to people in my district, I had a little bit of a misunderstanding because I'm very car-based. I've lived in an area of the country where I commuted by bike previously. And so when I heard that people wanted neighborhoods to be more walkable and bikeable, I heard, I want to be able to get to work on a bike. I was wrong. My neighborhood and my district want to be able to recreationally walk and bike, which is a little bit different way of addressing access to spaces. And so I've shifted the way that I'm addressing those needs. So Nashville has these wonderful greenways. We've been building them and developing them for the past 15 to 20 years, and they've grown and expanded, and they're actually quite nice, but we still have ways to go to make them fully usable and to ring the entire city the way they were originally planned. So that's one way that I've changed and shifted my perspective, because making sure that there's a bike connector from one side of Westmead to the other side is not what my constituents were asking for. What they're asking for is to be able to go out after dinner and walk with their dog and know that the speed limit is going to be low enough that the cars going through won't be a hazard to them.
So we talk all the time here at Good Party about the importance of candidates embracing and reflecting people-powered policies and putting people before special interests and the sort of direction of a political party. And that is very clearly reflected in, I think, a core foundational piece of your campaign, which is a policy that you're promoting called participatory budgeting. And so for those people who might not know what participatory budgeting is, I'd love if you could just kind of touch on the core of the policy, and in particular, why it's something that is so badly necessary for people in Nashville.
So Nashville has a really wonderful grant in place. We have $10 million that we're trying to funnel into the neighborhoods around Nashville. And we're doing a participatory budget. Sorry, it's a bit of a tongue twister. And we have gone into the communities, and I've been able to volunteer with this program to talk to people and bring in ideas that will be voted on to determine where we will use that money. And the ideas that are coming in are fantastic. It's things that city planners think about, but sometimes when you actually have people in those areas, they identify needs that maybe were overlooked before. One of the things that we see more often are we have a great soccer field, the kids are really using it, but to get their water bottles refilled, they have to go all the way back into the school building to refill their water bottles. Can we get a water station? And that's something that we can do for a fairly nominal amount of money. And so that's something that we've done in the past that we'll be able to implement hopefully in the future for some of the new soccer fields. We've had groups that have asked for additional safety with crosswalks near schools that have been built because more kids are walking to the schools. We've had groups ask for playground equipment. There's a request right now for a new community center in an area that has had exponential growth in our city. So these are things that the city may be aware that we need, but they don't realize how much the community really wants it. And so it's telling us so perfectly where to invest that money and how much it's going to be used and appreciated. And one of my favorite things, and I feel like I may have told you this already, Jared, when we talked earlier, but one of the little boys that I talked to on one of these outings, his question was, can we get ice cream at school lunch every day? And we've had those ideas submitted as well. And so it's really this great way for the community to say, here's a need, and for the people of the Nashville area to say, we love that. Let's make that happen. And it doesn't have to come through the council the same way that other changes would have to come.
Right. So essentially, people can invest in their own communities
Exactly.
through their member of council.
Yes.
What a novel idea.
Right.
So the last question I want to ask you is that you're 13 days out of an election. You took this very brave, bold step to jump into the political arena as a first-time candidate. And I'm sure that you did your research. I know, in fact, you did your due diligence to make the
Right.
decision. But I think a lot of times people run for office and are not entirely sure what to expect, or find that their expectations of a campaign turn out to be very different. So you're under 2 weeks away from Election Day. What is something that you have learned about yourself or just about the process of running for office that you hadn't necessarily known when you filed the papers to run?
Oh, wow. One of the things I learned about myself is that when there's a response in the social media world, the Nextdoors, the Facebooks, the Twitters, that I need to take a breath, because I don't personally know every single person in my district. Not yet. Maybe I'll know all 17,000 of them by the end of my 4-year time in council. But I have to stop and think, this isn't necessarily my next door neighbor Christy that I talk to every day before I respond. And that's one thing that I think everyone should remember when they're responding to people in social media, is that maybe your sense of humor isn't necessarily read the way that you think it will be. And one of the things that I have learned that is just so wonderful is that the amount of effort you put into things really comes back to you quickly. So putting in the effort is really one of the biggest things that has come back wonderfully. Just people who have been so encouraging, people who have donated their time and their effort and been just wonderfully available. It's been really fantastic.
Well, I know you're working hard. I wish you nothing but the best over these last 13 days of sprinting towards the election, and I hope in 14 days we'll be calling you Council Member Williams.
Thank you.
How can someone who wants to get involved with your campaign be supportive of your campaign over these last 14 days?
Great. Well, one really easy way is to go to the Good Party's web interface and help through their portals. That's a great way to reach out to the community and be supported that way. Another way is if you are in Nashville and you know anyone who is in District 23, which covers Belmead, Westmead, and parts of Bellevue, spread the word. I'm here. I'm available. I'm on social media. I'm happy to meet with people. That's one thing that I really want people to know, is that I am here. I'm available. I'll come meet you for coffee. I'll go for a walk with you over at Palmer Park. Let's meet. Let's talk. Let me answer your questions.
Great. And any last thoughts you want to share before we sign off?
Well, first and foremost, please vote. Even if you're not in District 23, even if you're not in Nashville with the upcoming elections, please make the effort to vote. If you're already planning to vote, take a neighbor. Maybe look around and see if there's an elderly person or somebody who doesn't have transportation near you, that on those election days or on those early voting days, take them. Maybe your state has mail-in voting available. Grab the forms, distribute them to your neighbors. Please get out and vote.